Hey guys, welcome back. As you can see, I do have a different background. I bet you weren't expecting that. So I'm just going to go ahead and get straight into this video. So over the last I guess the past year, I've noticed that people really do have this image of nursing in their mind, like these stereotypes. A few of the stereotypes are that nurses don't make money, nurses aren't as important as doctors, all nurses do is basically give old people sponge baths, that they're not as smart as doctors, or they couldn't get into med school so that's why they became a nurse. And then you have these other negative images like the sexy nurse costume for Halloween. You have these medical shows where the nurses are sometimes overlooked, not always, but the doctor is like up here and then the nurse is down here. I think people's perception of nursing is just off. So I went to Duke and majored in biology. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I thought about being a doctor at one point, but it just was not appealing to me. It never was. So when I graduated and people found out I wanted to be a nurse practitioner, they were like, well, why not just be a doctor? You're so smart. If I had your brains, I'd be a doctor. And it's not about not being smart enough, you know. Just because you're smart doesn't mean you have to be an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer. You know, you can be whatever you want to be. You know, be something that you're passionate about. And so I decided I wanted to be a nurse practitioner. I started doing my research and I learned so much about nursing. Like, I had no idea, and I think this is common among people. Like, you just don't know how much nurses do. You don't know how big and diverse the profession is. Like, I would go to my provider, who I thought was a doctor, for years. Like, I would make my appointment, she would examine me, fill out prescriptions for me, all of that. Come to find out, she's a nurse practitioner, a family nurse practitioner, and this whole time I thought she was a doctor. So I started doing my research and I'm like, wow, nurse practitioners are pretty cool. Like, I always knew I wanted to be in healthcare, but I didn't know if I wanted to be a doctor, nurse, nurse practitioner, physician assistant, pharmacist, physical therapist. I didn't know, because I didn't know anyone who had any of these job titles. So doing your research is really important. But I will say that just because you do your research, it doesn't mean you really understand what the job entails. I feel like I really didn't understand what nursing was really like until I started nursing school, especially when I started clinical. Then I saw everything that the nurses do, how important every single person in the hospital was, whether they're the doctor, respiratory therapist, nurse, dietitian. Like, everyone has such an important job. Even the environmental specialists, like the people who clean the rooms after a patient is discharged. Like, literally everyone is so important. So I really don't like it when people try to put down other people's jobs, you know. I feel like as long as that person is happy and they're making a big difference, you know, support them, be happy for them. So I hate when people tell me I should be a doctor. It's like, yes, I obviously could be, but I didn't want to. Like, I just love the whole nursing thing, the nurse practitioner. Like, come on. And as a nurse, there's just so many different types. Like, you can be a nurse based on the population you serve. You can be a neonatal nurse, pediatric nurse, geriatric nurse. You can also divide it based on the specialty, whether you're like a med-surg nurse, oncology nurse, mental health nurse. Like, there's just so many different types of nursing, and I had no idea really until I started nursing school. And even more so, you can further your education. So you can get your PhD in nursing or a DNP. So you can become a nurse practitioner. You can, and that even has a bunch of categories, right? There's a neonatal nurse practitioner, pediatric nurse practitioner, family nurse practitioner, CRNA, midwife. I feel like I'm leaving something else out. Geriatric nurse practitioner. There are just so many options in nursing. And another good thing is, let's say you do med-surg nursing for a year or two. You can go be a pediatric nurse if you want to after that, after your time commitment is up. You're not stuck in one specialty. You can continue to move on and try out different things. And so, back to the stereotype that people think nurses don't make money. Well, it depends on a lot of factors, like where you live, how many years of experience you have, your education level. So like a new nurse, of course, is not going to be paid as much as a nurse who's been in the game for 5 or 10 years, of course. If you go somewhere like New York or California, you're going to get paid more because the cost of living is more. So it really just depends. And even so, you have travel nurses. They make a good bit of money most of the time. I've heard a nurse told me that her friends did travel nursing for a while, did like an 8 or 13-week assignment and paid off their student loans like that. So nursing is just amazing in my opinion. I've learned so much about it. I'm so glad that I decided to go into it. And you can make money, especially like if you become a nurse practitioner, but just remember that you should never go into nursing or any job just for the money. Like, you might not like it, and then what? So, and like I said, when I started clinical, I saw that nurses did so much. It's not just giving bed baths, okay? Nurses really don't even do that. It's more of like the tech. But nurses are just so important. Just seeing the way that they interact with their patients and the impact that they have on patients, that's something that I really wanted to be a part of. That's kind of why I didn't want to be a doctor, because most of the time doctors are kind of in and out the room. They're busy focusing on the pathophysiology of the disease. You know, they need to study the disease process. So they're not going to really be there taking care of the patients, you know. And I wanted to do that. I like, you know, being there taking care of the patients, giving them meds, doing the assessments, doing the feedings. I think that's really interesting and I enjoy it. Bedside nursing is pretty cool. And if I do decide to be a nurse practitioner, then of course I'll move away from the bedside. But for now, that's what I want to do. So that's kind of, like I said, one of the reasons why I didn't want to be a doctor. The jobs are so different. And nursing was more appealing to me. So don't let anyone tell you that just because you're a nurse or a teacher or whatever, that you're not as good as anyone else. Okay, let's get that straight. So when you do start nursing school, you'll figure out what you like, what you don't like. I quickly knew that I did not want to work with adults. It's just so different working with adults versus kids and newborns, and clinical will really open up your eyes about what your interests are. You need to go into nursing school with an open mind. Don't think, oh, I for sure want to be a neonatal nurse, so I'm not going to pay attention to these other classes. I'm not going to like it, because when you start your mental health rotation, you may love it. You may now want to be a psych nurse, a mental health nurse. So just keep an open mind and enjoy the process, okay? Another thing that I do like about nursing too is the diverse hours that you can work. You can be like in a doctor's office and do like a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 type deal, or you can do your regular 3 12-hour shifts. You can do the night shift, rotating. You can do the day shift. And I think just the way that nurses build their schedules is pretty interesting. I'm doing my practicum now, and my preceptorship has, I believe, like 6 days off in a row. And I think that's pretty cool. Like, you don't even have to take time off, use your leave, or pay time off to do stuff like that. I think it's just pretty awesome if you work a certain, you know, you can do like 3 days in a row, which I don't really recommend, but you can do that and you're set for the week. You know, let me tell you, working in retail, I would have like a job where I'm literally only working like 4 hours in one day, but just having to go 5 days a week was just like so draining. I was like, I cannot work 5 days a week every week. I just can't. Like, give me my 3 12-hour shifts and let me have 4 days off and I'm happy. So I think that's another pretty cool thing about nursing. I basically just wanted to let you guys know that nursing is a lot more than what most people think it is. If you do know about this profession, I do encourage you to enlighten others. Don't let them put you or other nurses down. Every single job that goes into the hospital is important, like I said. Without one job, the whole system would fall apart. Because a nurse may not be able to do the things that a respiratory therapist can do. A doctor may not know certain things about the patient that the nurse knows. So everyone is important. And another thing that I do want to add is in my first semester, we learned that nurses were voted the most trusted profession in America for so many consecutive years. I think like ever since the year 2000, nurses have won most trusted profession, except for in the year 2001, which firefighters won because 9/11 occurred, unfortunately, and firefighters did an amazing job. But other than that, nurses have been voted number one trusted profession year after year after year, and I was just really surprised. I was not expecting that. Nurses just do so much for their patients. It's all about advocating and really being there for them. So I was really expecting like a doctor to be number one on the list, but your doctors, lawyers, politicians were a little further down on the list, which was surprising to me. But and that's not to say that no doctors or lawyers or politicians are good. That's not to say that they're corrupt. I don't know, that's just the results of the survey, okay? But I think everyone is important, like I've said before, and I was just really proud and surprised to see that nurses have won basically every year. So keep an open mind about nursing, especially as you're in nursing school. If you have family or friends telling you, oh, you should be a doctor when you don't want to be a doctor, don't pay them no mind. You should be around people who support you, do what makes you happy, do whatever you're passionate about. I don't care if you want to be the garbage man. I don't care if you want to work for UPS. I don't care if you want to be a cashier forever. If you're passionate about it, you're happy, do you. So I hope you learned a little bit more about nursing, and I encourage you to do some more research about nursing and just see how great and diverse it is, and have a lovely day. So they can't really